Before I begin, please let me know if you're able to view my screen, view my video, as well as you're able to hear me clearly on the chat. View my video as well as my screen. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Hello again, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon to people joining from the respective countries. Welcome to ManageEngine's webinar on endpoint security for anywhere operations, a future-ready strategy. This is Monisha Ravi, an evangelist and a regional marketing specialist for Asia Pacific, and I'll be your host for this webinar. We hope you're all safe and doing well as the pandemic still goes on. And as experts say, please continue wearing masks and always maintain social distancing when you step out. Now, before we take you to the session, I'd like to give a brief explanation of the console you're viewing right now. On the left side of your application, you can chat with us using the chat option. Let us know if you have troubles and difficulties or questions regarding the session. And if you'd like to get your queries answered, you can either use the chat option or you can go ahead and use the question option, which is also on the left side of the console. We have some handouts for you to download. These are available in the handout option on the left side again. You can use these for further reading related to both endpoint security as well as cybersecurity in general. We'll also email them after the session ends, along with the presentation and the recording. But if you want to download them in advance, please go ahead and do so. Finally, we have some polls for you to participate in. These polls would come up on your screen when our expert handles the session. And please don't worry if you miss them. You will find the polls on the left side of the console again, where you can participate in all of them, which you had missed out. Now, that being said, let's proceed. For those of you who have been with ManageEngine or at least know what we do, this is going to be a quick recap of our brand. And for those of you who are new here, the next few slides are for you. ManageEngine is a division of Zoho Corporation Private Limited, and we craft comprehensive and affordable IT management applications for managing your IT infrastructure. We have over 120 products and free tools for IT management, and we have over 180,000 clients across the globe. We are proud to say that out of nine of every 10 Fortune 100 organizations trust ManageEngine for their IT management. We have regional offices worldwide, and we also have in Australia for ANZ for the region for that matter. And we also have partners from Australia and New Zealand to help you out and understand on how to manage your IT infrastructure. So if you have any queries, or if you want to get trainings or schedule demos, you can always reach out to them as well as us, and we'll be able to help you out. This is a portion of some of our products that we have released over the years. ManageEngine has got over 120 products, like I said before. And this is the timeline of the introduction of our products. So if you have any requirement related to cybersecurity or IT management in general, please reach out to us and we'll be able to help you out. ManageEngine's main motto is to bring IT together, and this is how we do it. And we do it in 6 different domains: service management, identity and access management, security information and event management, unified endpoint management and security, IT operations management, and advanced IT analytics. We have 6 different domains where we have different products across these 6 different domains, and they are available on premises. They are self-hosted in public cloud like Google, Azure, AWS. You also have them on Zoho Cloud as cloud-native solutions. Now, that being said, let's move on to our agenda. Despite all the attempts to head back to the office premises, the last 1.5 years have taught us that the ability to work from anywhere will remain one of the preferred working styles. Many clients, end users, and even employees will want to continue accessing services from anywhere across the distributed network. So it is important to safeguard an organization's IT environment, and that can be done through a well thought endpoint security strategy. This can combine different methodologies to keep attackers and their vectors at bay. Now, with the number of endpoints increasing in every organization by the day, it's more important than ever to minimize the associated risks and vulnerabilities. To address various necessities for secured anywhere operations, we have our expert Santosh Narasimhamurthy today to discuss crucial points that will help your organization implement a foolproof endpoint security plan. Introducing our expert. Santosh is a senior technical evangelist for Unified Endpoint Management Solutions at ManageEngine. He brings more than 10 years of experience in the broadly defined categories of endpoint security, technical support, and product implementation. His specialty is guiding customers to make the best choices while selecting and implementing endpoint management and security solutions for all enterprise environments. Over to you, Santosh.
Thank you very much for those nice words, Monisha. I hope you were able to hear my voice clearly.
Yes, we can hear you, Santosh.
Perfect.
Loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon for people who are joining in the afternoon. Let me go ahead and share my screen and then we'll begin the presentation from there on. I hope my screen is visible. Right. All right. Perfect. Greetings once again. Thank you very much for joining us this morning or afternoon from wherever you're joining us. I hope you guys all are safe and healthy all through the pandemic, and we wish for a speedy recovery for the entire business and the world from this whole COVID situation. Right. My name is Santosh Narasimhamurthy, and I will be your presenter for today. Now, before I would go into my today's presentation, would like to have one question posted for all of you. Right, who led the digital transformation of a company? I generally ask these questions in a couple of our my webinars that I go through. So, who led the digital transformation of your company? Right, was it your CEO, or was it your CTO, or what was it your CSO? Who led the digital transformation? Generally, people say that probably my security officer or probably my CTO did go through the digital transformation of the company. But I mean, we see that it was the COVID-19, right, that actually had brought in transformation for most of the companies, right? Now, even before this whole pandemic situation, Gartner, the famous reviewer, they were talking about uh, the work from anywhere culture would begin by 2030. That was their prediction, even before a whole pandemic came into picture. But then what this pandemic has done is that it has just added a fuel into what was being inevitable: work from anywhere, or work from home, or work from different places, different devices, handling the data through different devices. So it was a prediction that should happen by 2030, but then the whole COVID has added fuel, and it has brought in by 2020. It has pushed everybody to this place where we have to adopt to work from anywhere culture. No more coming to an office kind of an approach where you have all your endpoints at one point and then catering all the needs. So it just moved 10 years ahead. Once I was talking to a customer in Malaysia, and they were essentially a healthcare organization, and they were mentioning about their backup plan for that concerns about the IT. They are a big medical facility, and he was talking about how this BCP plan was not effective. They had this BCP plan well tested and well equipped, and when time came and things like Corona COVID-19 situation came, it proved that they need a better backup plan, or they need a better techniques in order to handle the details thing. The scenarios that came in were never part of the backup plan that was earlier, and they had to go through a lot of amendments in terms of security, in terms of even managing these endpoints, how we are going to deliver this. So they completely had to restructure their business continuity plan when it comes to IT management. So that's the effect of what COVID-19 has, the whole COVID-19 has put into place. And that's why I also say that the COVID-19 was the one who brought the entire digital transformation. And I also want you to go to, I mean, look at the statistics from the World Economic Forum. While this whole COVID-19 has put everyone to go towards work from anywhere culture. When I say anywhere culture, which means concentrate on the third point. Look at the third point. What it says: cyber attacks and data fraud due to sustained shift in working patterns. Right. So that's what it means. The shift in working patterns. You be inside the office, then you move all your applications or either on cloud or probably put it on the edge, make the user, I mean, have it available for the users, and then you have you connected through a mobile device or a kiosk or probably a laptop or a desktop, things like that. And then when they are back to the office, what do you do? The sustained shift in working pattern, because of that, the cyber attacks and data frauds have increased. They have also mobilized, I would put it as, they have also mobilized the way they target the users, and that became a very big problem. Because of this, because of the shift that's been happening on the way that we get connected, they have also evolved and getting the data and attacking the environments like never before. That's been a very great impact. If you look at it, 50% talk about that in the World Economics Forum. So as an IT administrator, we also had a lot of challenges during this transition of from the office into the work from anywhere culture. So probably not going to go in detail into every aspect of what challenges we have, just giving you a overview of the different challenges. It's important to understand the challenge first in order to probably take in the solution. So that's why I have just generalized the different challenges that usually come because of this transition. First is providing access to your applications, right? While they connect from different places, uh, I mean, when it is a work from home, or I'm sorry, work from office, it was a different scenario. You had your applications in house. It could be an on-prem solution, or even it could be a separate cloud structure that you have. But when you go outside to the work from home or work from anywhere culture, there is always a risk in providing the access to those same applications, whether it's inside or the outside. So you have to move your applications to edge, and also your application should be ready by in terms of security, in terms of reachability, scalability, and those things come into picture. Meaning your application can no longer use the legacy, I mean, application the way they are, legacy modules that they have, or it cannot be unpatched, or it cannot be without upgrading. When it's inside the organization, that was altogether a different story. You could probably have a delayed patching method, or you could not even probably adopt a technology that's more secure than what you have, because of the cost, because of the business model that you have. But work from anywhere culture demands you to upgrade your technologies, upgrade and update to the latest, and patch your keep your machines patched. And not only that, you have to follow a various security hygiene. That's one of the challenges in terms of application. And then authentication levels, right? When we were inside the office, the level of authentication, just the username and password should be fine, because we were inside a fortress. So if you have them authenticated, and if it's an authenticated device, then you get everything, and I mean, you get access to all the applications. But when it's going to be a work from anywhere culture, that's not the case. You need extra authentication. Even if it's a legitimate username and password that's coming in as a request, you will never know that's through a malicious tool, or probably from the user request, the actual genuine request. Therefore, you're going to enforce an extra layer of authentication. That's where multi-factor authentication comes into picture. So that's an additional level of security. When you increase additional level of security, that's going to put an effect on your productivity of the users as well. So multi-layer of authentication, extra, I mean different way to reach your applications, all these things became a general challenge. And for an IT management perspective, how do I configure new devices, how do I onboard new devices securely, that became a challenge. It's not like walking to a just walking into a IT room and then probably have your problem fixed, or probably get a new laptop or get a new device. That's not how it's going to work. Probably if you're there from work from anywhere, apart from shipping, there should be other options like enrolling over the air or deploying your applications over the air. I can't really walk to an IT room and get my problems fixed, or get my device configured. I should also be able to do it remotely effectively. That's one of the requirements or challenges that IT faces. And should be handling bring your own device as well. Lot of companies that I have seen during this pandemic has said, you go ahead and get a device and just make it ready for work and get the business going. Things like that happened in a couple of companies that we saw. So bring your own device and how you're going to address it. And remember, all these things have to be managed at customers own internet. Bring your own internet. The device could be yours, but then the internet facility that they have is their own, at home or probably wherever they are. Now that's going to affect you a big time. You can't use it. I'll give you an example. Probably if you want to post in restrictions patching the machines, and then at the same time if they want to access your applications, if both are happening, that's going to eat up a lot of bandwidth. And if they're out of bandwidth, that's going to affect your business, and it's going to affect your security as well. So you have to strike a balance between these two. That's one of a challenge. So managing everything at customers own or users own internet is again was a problem. And then last problem is when they're back to the office, what quarantine policy do you have? How do you quarantine these machines? Just like your COVID-19 virus, if you're exposed to the COVID-19, you quarantine yourself for some time, and then only you'll be back to the office. And that's very true for your endpoints too. All this COVID-19 situation, when your endpoints are at different places, probably a wilderness, and they could have picked up a lot of malware or ransomware along the way. And when they're back to the office, you have to make sure they quarantine, they're compliant, and you will have to strategize your security policy according to that. So let's move on to another angle of how the security shift. Those are the challenges that we faced as an IT admins or IT management team in terms of security, or in terms of mobilizing these endpoints. So when it comes to the endpoints, from the endpoints itself, let's look at it from their angle. They became more vulnerable, and how they became how they became the need for more security happened. So we move from a castle kind of approach into a remote wilderness. That's the new requirement that's there. So previously, if you look at it, our endpoints were securely in place inside a specific castle. We call it as a fortress, right? IT castle. And where you have all these outside attacks, malware, on all these phishing attacks that's happening around. So we were the first layer of security, something like a moat, right? I'll take you back to the Dungeons and Dragons. So if you have a moat, that's more like a demilitarized zone, um, where the malwares cannot move into the inside ground, except for the specific parts that they have. They have crocodiles and all these animals inside the moat. Similarly, for us in an IT world, it won't be reachable, right? The inside structure won't be reachable. That's the DMZ zones that we have. And the next level of security that we had is like the knights. If you look at the castle, and they will have knights that's going to revolve around the castle, and they're going to see if any suspicious activity are going on. If somebody is able to cross this moat, and if they're able to come to the land, and probably these guys pick them up. Similarly, your IPS and IDS detections take care of your malware or ransomwares, from the outside circle. And that's one of the security layer. And moving further, everybody loves this layer that's called the firewall, IT admin's favorite. if everything is going fine, it's because of the firewall, and if there are problems, it's always because of the firewall, right? So people love firewall, and that's one of the biggest tool that we were using it for a very long time. We're still using it, and that's been our fortress for all the information security that we have. And right now we are moving into a different era, but that's been a very very great fortress for us. And finally, the gold. Data is today's gold that resides inside of all of this, right? So I've just mentioned some of the security layers that's been very very important or crucial for an organization, or how they were previous or I'll put it as pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic. We all worked inside. We loved the castle, but we abandoned the castle right now. That's the condition that we have. Now all our endpoints are now, which had all these perimeter level of security, intrusion preventions, URL filtering, DMZ zones. All these are now moving into a different wilderness. Now, from this castle, this data is right now not going to be handled inside the castle. Nobody's going to come to the palace to see the king, or nobody's going to come to the palace to get everything what they need. Now they're going to get it from wherever they are, just like our governments. Now all these devices are now at home or different offices. They're all going to get connected to your corporate office, not only for just based for the applications, but for all the business collaboration needs. They are going to get connected to your data. Your data could be inside the castle, or it could be on the internet as well. You are completely moved the data from the castle. But the strategy has now turned in. Probably you moved your castle, or your data to a cloud environment, now from an on-prem, or probably to a different distributor type of architecture. But the way the attack is going to happen has now changed. I'm now no longer going to be bothered about attacking you or just on where the data was, right? Where the data was kept, the infrastructure. That's not going to be the attack. Now I'm going to attack from the endpoint level, wherever you're going to access these data, devices that are going to get access to this data. I'm going to attack from that perspective. While we continue on knowing this, the ransomware or the malware is going to attack you from wherever at endpoint. Let me quickly take you back to another place where it talks about this ransomware. So I'm sure that you would have understood what's a hora, right? Human operated ransomware that's been happening beyond 2020, right? That's the evolution of ransomware that's happening. And previously, if you look at it, a perfect ransomware was engineered into a small script, or probably a small tool that would execute itself. If a ransomware comes into an organization, it usually has a series of set of procedures that it goes through, in compromising the security layers, and compromising the protocols, or compromising the techniques that you have at your organization. And then it just goes on, right? At some point, your firewall, or probably your endpoint security, will be able to stop it, because it's executing the set of instructions, one by one. And you should be able to detect them and stop it. That's how the traditional ransomware models were. Like I said, when this work from home culture or work from anywhere has come in, they have also evolved. Now it's no more a single ransomware or a single set of information. I'm just putting it as in a very simple lines. It's no more a single file or a single execution. It's going to be human operated ransomware. Hora, this model is being proposed by the Microsoft. If you go to Microsoft site, you should be able to learn more about it. So it's no more a single file. It's going to be a series of attack that's going to happen at your endpoint level. First level is to fish you out. Second level is to compromise the security. Third level is to gain access. And then on the third level itself, again, lateral movement, right? Once they get into your endpoints, they go for a lateral movement. And once the attack is complete, I mean, the actual attack doesn't happen until the stage 4. That's what they say. Anyhow, I'll talk about it. But then, if you look at it, they have also evolved by 2020. now restricting this human operated ransomware has become a very big challenge, even for a big players or a bigger endpoint security layers, because the way these guys operate, right, just a small snippet of how they operate. Once the first they enter into the environment, now Microsoft is trying to put this in three different formats or three different portfolios, where you have the phase where the ransomware enters into your organization, and then how it's going to spread, transfer spread, or a word lateral movement into your organization, and then it finally goes for execution of this ransomware. Until you reach the third stage, where your executive objectives, or where the actual encryption or the actual attack take place, you it will be unnoticed. That's the whole point of what they're coming to say. So when the first phase and the second phase happens, you will absolutely have no clue of what they are going to do, even with your endpoint securities in place. That's going to go into probably the credential theft. If you look at it, the first phase, you have your emails. If client clicks on an email, immediately it's not going to affect the system. Probably it's going to just try to enter the environment, sit there as a legitimate, like a legitimate file, and on this, once they gain access to the organization, then the next set of policies or next set of code gets executed. It is operated by a human at various level, step by step. Once they get into a system, once they know they get into a system, they try to do a lateral movement, try to get the credentials by various means at the endpoints, by the application, by the operating system, the way it is stored, and all these things. They go ahead and take those credentials, put the actual malware or the ransomware that goes into the system, installs it, waits there. Once they get all these access, then goes to the next set of executables, and that's about encrypting the data. The moment they start encrypting your data, and that's when you actually know the attack is happening. By the time you know that they have encrypted the data, your data is all gone, because they have laterally moved. Sometimes, worst nightmare, your backup is also gone. So they use different tools and different terminologies. I'm not going to go in detail into those things, because you could probably get these informations online of different tools that they have. Probably if you could search on the Microsoft site, they even talk about what are the different names of ransomwares that or the names that you have to look for at your endpoint level, to understand whether it's at the enter environment level, or it's at the transfers or a spread level. So there are different terminologies for it, how to understand and how to detect them. Probably if you're interested, you could learn it. But my objective is, beyond 2020 or beyond this post pandemic, while all your devices or work from anywhere culture, it's going to be altogether a different ball game. So it's important that you focus in the way that you provide, or a proactive method in order to safeguard your endpoints. If you're not going to safeguard your endpoints, then the chances of recovery from different space is going to be very, very, very difficult. Now, while we speak about this, I just probably thought, let's go ahead and initiate a poll for you. So, how many of you do you think? How many of you have this work from anywhere culture? I wanted to see the percentage of people who wants to do it. So, I'm just going to start a poll. Please, you go ahead and on the screen, give the answer to me. What is the percentage of work from home endpoints in your organization? So, I'm going to probably give a couple of minutes for people to answer. So, this is probably going to tell us how important it is for us to get into a good strategy, while these new methods of hora, there are a lot of different ransomware attacks that's happening in different models. But we really wanted to know how many of you are going to. So I might probably give another couple of seconds. I'm getting a good number of votes, by the way. All right, perfect. So if I'm probably, I'd like to probably share this with you all too. So majority of them are looking towards 50% or 75% of their workforce. That's exactly what Gardner has predicted as well. They said by the end of this pandemic, you will have 20% of the organizations uh, would, I mean, 70% or more than 70% of organizations will adapt to work from anywhere, but they will still keep a small chunk of 20% or 15% at their organization as well, which means you will also have endpoints that are going to access from your offices as well. So you're going to have a small chunk who will be in office, and you'll have a majority of chunk that's going to work from anywhere. That's exactly what their prediction was. While we say it from an IT management perspective, it's little more challenging to design policies to adopt that can adopt between these two, changes that's happening from a management perspective. How do I set policies for in terms of security or even patching, or in terms of application control? How am I going to control the different applications that's been installed in my environment when they're in office, outside of office? So that poses a different level of challenges as well, right? So on the coming back to my presentation, the new or not new requirement is already there. What we have to focus is really in the side of endpoint security, encryption, and if you have a proper application management and control over what you have installed and what's there on the system already, and continuous vulnerability assessment and remediation. If you could have that system, next level antivirus solutions, EDR, that's one of the important area. You need a strong EDR, endpoint detection and response. Even ManageEngine is going to release an EDR in some time, but EDR is a very important aspect of endpoint security for now too. So once you have these, and along with that, if you have perimeter level of security, then I think that's the most important security requirements that you have. From the management engine perspective, how we have adapted to these changing needs, right, for our customers. So from a traditional patch management perspective, when where we had just a patching solutions, we are also providing customers a comprehensive vulnerability management. That's one of the new requirements that comes to us from this modern or the new strategy for the endpoint security. So continuous vulnerability assessment. Now previously, what we had was, you could have a delayed patching, you could do a selective patching, and probably you might have an in-house tool that could go for patching as well, and centralized download for patches. So these are um, some of the methods by which patching takes place. You will have a centralized download for everything, you distribute it, you don't worry about the bandwidth, or probably you'll only worry about at a data center level, at different offices level. That's how you worried about. But you all had a centralized download from which you distributed to these endpoints. But right now, post pandemic, that's going to be a little different. You need a unified approach to know known vulnerabilities and unknown vulnerabilities, right? You have to address both. When I say known vulnerabilities, that could be related to your patching. I mean, patching of applications where the vendor releases a patch for a specific vulnerability. It could be a 0 day as well, but that those are known vulnerabilities. But there could be unknown vulnerabilities that present in your machines as well. Those may not be the actual vulnerabilities. Things like, for example, the protocol that they uses. Let's take an example of WannaCry. There are a lot of things that you learn from a WannaCry or a Pataya or from Bluekeep. You have a lot of things that you actually learn from these attacks, though they are old, 3 years old, 2 years old, or how much ever it's old. We have a lot of things that we learn from it. The unknown vulnerabilities of things like protocol. What are the different protocols that you use? Whether it be a remote protocol, what are the different applications that are using your remote protocols, and the peer-to-peer connectivity, legacy protocols, things like TLS version 1.1 or SMB v1 port. So there are different vulnerabilities that could be part of your endpoints, right? So to know those unknown vulnerabilities as part of your endpoints is very, very important, because these ransomware or the new age ransomware are going to utilize those things to spread lateral movements will be used for these unknown vulnerabilities. So it's one of the requirements that we've been trying to fulfill for our customers, to detect the unknown vulnerabilities at the machine level and make sure these are remediated as well, and check and schedule patch management based on their own internet. I mean, bring your own internet, like I was mentioning in the starting. Your endpoint could be inside the organization, or it could move out of your organization as well. So when they're inside the organization, I have a different policy for my patching. When they are outside my organization, the same device, I should automatically adapt to a different patching policy. So that's one of the things that we've been providing our customers, how it's going to download when they're inside the office, how it's going to download when they are outside the office. They can directly download from the internet and get the patches installed wherever they are when say inside the office. And of course, we can put a lot of restrictions on the bandwidth, how much it should consume, and lot of granular control in the way how patch management is going to operate. And then patch management as service, that's not really a service, but then that's more of a requirement. If you have a tool that should be able to patch machines globally, wherever you are, you've been in Australia, you've been in US, you've been in Canada, you've been in India, wherever you are, my patch management service should be able to detect my endpoints, and I should be able to patch those machines in a very unified approach. Bandwidth, again, like I mentioned, you need that. So that's one of the requirements, and our patch management or our vulnerability management program in ManageEngine is able to focus on these areas, and ManageEngine Vulnerability Manager Plus will be able to give you those aspects, right? And known and unknown vulnerabilities and EDR is one of our focus that we are going to release soon. So vulnerability management is already available with us. Expect EDR soon from us. That's going to be a comprehensive vulnerability combo that's going to give an additional layer of security for you. The second perspective, the second security requirement that came to us was more from a device peripherals that's been connected to different devices. When you're at home, you connect different devices to your endpoints, and that's one of the area where we also wanted to highlight and address. So a comprehensive USB based peripheral management, where you can control the devices, what's been copied out of the device. All these could be controlled from a single unified approach. That's one of the security requirements, and that is available in our unified endpoint management suite, right? Moving on to the next requirement that came in all through this post pandemic world. I wanted to probably look at a small example, the recent supply chain attack that happened, right? Firstly, it happened in US, or the recent one was one from US, and the other one was for the the solar winds that happened. So from these supply chain, the other one was very recent, a couple of months ago. So what we learned from a supply chain attack, right? There are different perspectives in the supply chain. First of all, how does this happen? This happens. This is a legitimate inject code that goes into. I'm sorry, a code. A malicious code that goes into a legitimate software update. That's how they do it. So you have your legitimate software at your endpoint level. You have different applications for different needs, and this code goes into one of the updates that's going to come in for these legitimate software. And while you download this legitimate software, this code also get downloaded on the background, and they use the same privilege that these guys use. This known application users, they're going to use the same privilege, and they're going to laterally move into the endpoint level. At some point, if you drill down these different supply chain attacks that's been happening, you will understand one thing is they're all legitimate softwares. They use certificates for communication. They have been signed by famous vendors. I'm not going to mention it, but they've been in from the security perspective. They have been following all the norms from a vendor perspective, but still they were able to upload this malicious code into their package. at some point supply chain attack will be inevitable according to the experts. If you want to drill down further, at some point you will have the supply chain attacks coming here and there. The best thing is for us to defend, or proactive approach is to reduce the attack surface. The moment they come inside your organizations, how fast are we responding or reducing the attack surface at every level? I'm going to probably look into those things as well. So that's important area. The first thing is excessive administrative privileges. Think about from this angle. I'm going to provide excessive administrative privileges for certain applications. So because of that, when this supply chain attack happens, I'm going to utilize the same administrative privilege that's been given to this application. I'm going to use it and move laterally and get all the data I want. If you look at it from another angle, what if I'm not going to provide administrative privileges for these applications or for these specific users? If I'm not going to provide, then even if the inject code comes in, then I'm not going to able to move laterally at all, because I don't get the necessary privileges. So that's reducing the attack surface to one endpoint or one area. So that's the example that I'm talking about. So that came to us, and we moved from a traditional application management perspective into a broader application control, where you we not only provide deploying applications from a centralized console, which was a pre-pandemic requirement. Going for a deployment of applications from a single console, you deploy to any endpoint in the world, you deploy the applications, get your applications installed. But we are also moved into an application control environment where blacklisting and whitelisting of application takes place. You can go ahead and block the unnecessary applications. So how our product works is that it's going to blacklist and whitelist applications according to your need. And also we also have something called privileged application control, where I don't have to provide elevated privilege for the users anymore, or for specific groups anymore. Rather, I would say when a user is trying to run a specific application, elevate the privilege for that session, for that application alone. So what happens is, for example, if I want to run an Adobe, right, application, the user requires an elevated privilege. So when they double click on Adobe, our agents or our application that sits on the background elevates the privilege for that session alone, and lets the user run. The moment they finish the application, I'm going to strip down all the privilege, and for that session I'm going to end it there as well. So each application, each session, we will be elevating privileges by this way. Even if a ransomware that comes in on the background, when you put a whitelisted, so when you whitelist a set of applications and you also put a privileged application control, which means you have tightened the security there. Unnecessary applications, they will not be able to install, they will not be even be able to open unnecessary applications. The necessary applications will run in the required privilege format. If they don't require elevated privilege, you don't have to give it at all. If for the ones that really required, the agent takes care of it. So even though there is an impact that's going to reduce at that endpoint level, and the attack surface will reduce to a greater extent. So that's application control, and it's available as part of our unified endpoint management suite that we offer. That's one of the requirements that we have given for our customers for this post pandemic world. And the other important thing is browser security. All these models that people suggest when it comes to ransomware or malware attacks, they all say browser being a very key area, because all our applications are either moving towards cloud, or more web servers are coming in, web based applications are coming in. So or people who are going to use browsers is going to be high, right? So it is important to manage these browsers, not only manage, secure these browsers. I'll give you an example. The example is from a CIS benchmark, where the CIS benchmark says disable the background processing for Chrome. Now that's a very important CIS benchmark, because the Chrome has this ability, when even when you close the Chrome, uh, if it has enabled or if it has triggered a process on the background, right? If the Chrome is able to trigger a process on the background, even after you close the Chrome, the process can still continue to run. based on the privilege that's been given by the Chrome. That's going to be very dangerous. If something is downloaded and if a link is clicked, if a malicious content is executed, even if you close Chrome, I'll still be able to run it on the background. That's going to be a very great problem. So CIS says disable it. When the Chrome process, everything that got executed along with the Chrome should also get closed. No process you should run apart from the one specific sessions. Simple things like this benchmarks, you can achieve it through our browser security. I'll probably show you around the product in a few minutes, but these compliance, CAS compliance of how to keep benchmark for your browsers, how to disable certain level of threat protections, I mean enable threat protection and disable certain options at your browser levels. You should be able to do granular control over your browsers. That's one of the new age requirements that's there, comprehensive browser security, and we have also offered it for our uh, customers as well. The last thing is about encryption. CAS or any standards that says go ahead and encrypt your data. Encryption, 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 encryption at every level of your data. It's going to save you a lot of time. So we also have tools that could manage your encryption, file vault, or it could be a BitLocker management. We have tools that in a unified approach could manage your encryptions all from a single console, right? And while you have all these things, you must also adapt to one more technique called the zero trust network access model. What is this zero trust network access model? That's our solution. That's a secure, we call it as security by design. Well, you have all these endpoint security requirements. One of the security by design model is zero trust network access. What is the zero trust network access? Is you don't verify, you don't trust any device and then go for a verification process. You don't do it. First you verify. Even if it's a corporate, I'll give you an example. Even if it's your own device that's coming back to the office, you will not trust that device unless you verify, say the compliance, say the legitimate, I mean the username and passwords, the authentications that are going to come in, multi-factor authentications at different layers or different levels. Now it's not only about an application login, it's not only about having access to the applications. This zero trust network access model should be a philosophy, and it should be a philosophy at every level of your IT management, right? I gave you an example. When the device comes in, you should make sure they are in compliance. Otherwise, I don't trust you at all. I'm not going to let you in. But adopting the zero trust network access philosophy into every area of your endpoint is very very crucial. What do I mean by this philosophy is, the first thing is make sure you keep your users off your corporate network while you still provide access to your applications, right? You must provide access to your application, provide access for the users towards your application, but in the same time I should never allow them inside my corporate network. Keep them off, right? Single sign on for all your applications, whether it could be an on-prem or it could be a SaaS model or it could be a AS, whatever comes in future. Single sign on, enforce single sign on for all your applications. If it's going to be being your own internet kind of approach, keep your applications hidden, right? That's one of the great approach. Until if it is necessary, you will not show your applications to these endpoints or these users that they exist, right? Until it's required, until you trust them, until you verify everything, then you will show your applications to them. You will not show your applications first and then authenticate later. You'll first authenticate, verify, and then you will expose your applications. So that's what I mean by hiding applications. Multi-factor authentications, absolutely, there is no two-way about it. Enforce multi-factor authentication at every level. Even we go one step further. My recommendation is even at every process level. If a script has to get executed or if a certain application has to run, you enforce multi-factor authentication at every level, at every process. The way that an application fetches details from your DB, at every level we must enforce multi-factor authentication, not only at user level. Now why do I say this is because this would prevent something like a supply chain attack. This would prevent something like a HORA, right? Human operated ransomware. So if you have a process in place that could go for multi-factor authentication at different levels. The way your application operates in handling the data, if you're able to enforce it, that's going to greatly reduce the surface attack, and thereby minimizing the impact that has on your organization. A strong EDR and an SIEM tool. That's one of the basic requirements. You need to have SIEM solution, strong one that could report everything to you, and an EDR that could accompany it and make sure it detects and responds therein there all. And finally, encryption, data encryption at your all your endpoints, right? So let me probably give you a brief idea about our products. All these, security requirements that we spoken is available on our unified endpoint management and security line of products. This is I just try to post it from a different perspective, where you have security and management together at one suite. You'll be able to do traditional management and the modern management together. And endpoint security, you'll be able to do the vulnerability assessment, browser security, application control, patching, device control, and a comprehensive reporting on all those. Encryption is also part of it. When you go to legacy, modern management side, you will have geo tracking, fencing, corporate wipe, and complete wipe for Windows 10 or modern operating systems, and tracking those devices. Everything is available on the modern side of it, all from a single console. Even moving further down, imaging solution, if you want to do OS imaging, that's also available from the same platform. Remote management, taking remote control of those devices, or even doing remote management for these work from anywhere people, like deploying a script, or running a command line, opening up a command prompt, or remote control. All these things are available as part of the legacy management. All these from a single suite. And you also have analytics, reporting, and auditing as well, which connects all these three, and you'll have a comprehensive reporting. And we offer it on cloud, on premise version, and especially for if you are an MS managed service provider, we offer a separate version for you as well. So this is a suite that would give you a level of security that is required for you to reduce the attack surface. I'll put it in that way. uh, it would be a simple things that would keep you from these malicious or ransomwares. Simple things, simple vulnerability management, simple application control, simple port audits, simple patch management. All these simple things that we think as basics would definitely help you reduce the attack surface when it comes to ransomware, right? So just to give you a little tour of our product, I'm just going to take you to the actual desktop central console. So this is our unified endpoint management console that we have, which has all these security features that I have spoken in it, right from vulnerability management, that's under threats and patches, that gives you details about how many different vulnerabilities you have. You get a beautiful matrix that says how many critical vulnerabilities you have, what are the different misconfigurations at your system level. We pick it up from CAS control and we show it over here as well. And you have software deployment, inventory of hardware and software, OS deployment, mobile device management that could manage iOS, Android, Windows, MacBooks, Chrome OS, and Apple TVs as well. Comprehensive browser security. This is what I was describing about compliance. So I can go into the compliance and see from a browser perspective how many machines are in compliant. If I'm not in compliant, what are the different parameters that I have to take action, and how do I fix it? All those compliance and report insights are available. In fact, if I go into the insights, it gives more about how many vulnerable browsers are there, how many invalid extensions are there. All those details you will get it there. Application control, the other area that I was talking about, where you can have a privileged group. So you go ahead and say, these are my privileged applications, specific applications that require elevated privilege. I can do that, and I can map it to a specific group. The group is universal, so this is unified management. You don't require different set of tools for different areas. So one group that had different policies, one policy for your browser, one policy for your applications, one policy for your patches, one policies for your BitLocker, all these from a single group that you can create a unified approach. Then you have BitLocker management that gives you a lot of insights about how a TPM is enabled or not, whether you have it or not. If you want to rotate the keys and update the domain controller about the keys that you fetch, that's also available as part of BitLocker. And finally, coming to the remote management, right? You can take remote control of devices, remote management, like I was talking about, virtually running a command prompt. If you'd like to run a command prompt, I could do that from wherever they are in the world. I should be able to run a command prompt. They will not even know that you're running it. From an administrative perspective, you could run a lot of scripts, or you could clear a lot of issues if you're able to do remote management from what you see on the screen. So this is desktop central from Manage Engine. And if you'd like to know more about the products, please do get in touch with us. So what are the five takeaways that I can take from the unified endpoint security perspective, from a patch perspective to a vulnerability management, from a basic application management to a comprehensive application control, from a small device USB device management to a data leak prevention kind of approach, comprehensive browser security and encryptions. All these simple five things would be able to, along with this, of course, you will have the zero trust philosophy as well. You can enforce it on your environment and nothing like it. With that, I've come to the end of my session. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. And of course, I'm going to try answer the questions that we have. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it on the chat. I'll try to answer as much as questions as possible. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Santosh, for a detailed discussion on points to consider about endpoint security. And I'm sure our viewers were able to get the gist of securing distributed endpoints with your brief session. Thank you once again. A gentle reminder, what Santosh just mentioned, please send in your questions through the chat and the question option on the left side of your console. And do check out the handouts that we have in the handout section. And if you missed the poll, please participate in them as well. Now, since we have a couple of questions here over chat, Santosh, the first
Yeah.
question is, how can I use Desktop Central to blacklist Cobalt Strike?
Well, that's an interesting. The reason why I say it's very interesting is we all know what's a Cobalt Strike, right? Can I use it to blacklist Cobalt Strike? Yes, of course. How our blacklisting basically works is that, just giving the viewers a little insight. Um, we run a comprehensive scan on all the endpoints and different EXEs that's running at these missions, and we make a list of applications that are in those machines, and we say, hey, these are the applications that are running. What do you want to do about it? Whether you want to whitelist them, or would you want to push it to a blacklist? So we show them those options. With that, you should be able to blacklist, not just Cobalt Strike. I mean, practically any executions that's going to happen at your endpoint.
Okay. The next question is, does your product patch vulnerabilities in remote machines, those that are at work from home scenario?
Of course, yes, that's one of the models that we have adopted with our product. You should be able to do a global patch management, not just patch management, vulnerability, essentially, wherever they are, right? Right from known vulnerabilities to unknown vulnerabilities. Even we have specific policies what to do when they are at home, what specific policies when they're back to the office. So it will be automated. The important factor is our solution will be able to detect whether they are accessing it from home or whether they are going to access it from inside the office. We'll be able to detect that, and we are going to use the policy accordingly.
There's one more question related to vulnerability management. So it says, does your vulnerability management provide remediation as well?
Of course, that's one of the important features, I would say, from Manage Engine side, is that we not only provide detection of these vulnerabilities. Keep in mind, we also provide remediations as well, not just from a patching perspective. We don't just provide patch management. We also provide remediation for mission level vulnerabilities, how to block For example, disabling TLS version 1.1, we have solution that immediately blocks those TLS version 1.1s. How about disabling local administrators? How about different legacy protocols? For all these things, we have remediation also in place.
Okay, so I think since we are running out of time, we'll answer the rest of the questions over mail. So please send them in. We have the ID on the screen, santosh.n@manageengine.com. You can also send it to sales@manageengine.com. You can also send it to my ID, monisha.ravi@manageengine.com. So we will be able to help you out if you have more questions. And with that, we have come to the end of the webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. You have been an amazing and a great audience. We'll still be available here for some time since we know that you might have a couple of questions more to answer. Please send them in. You can send them through the chat option and the question option, like I've been mentioning. And also, since we have the handouts and the presentation and the recording to send, please expect that mail in a day or two, which will reach you on your respective registered IDs. You'll also see a short feedback form once the session ends. Please let us know your views, your thoughts about today's webinar and the topic, and other suggestions that you might have for our future webinars, which we would be incorporating based on your suggestions. Thank you once again for being a great audience. See you all in our future online and offline events as soon as possible. And until then, this is Monisha Ravi and the entire Manage Engine team signing off. Take care and have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Manisha. Bye bye.
Bye bye.